The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hi everyone, and welcome into the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Glad you joined us. I'm Bill Pucko, and happy to be joined by Dan Wesley, our college football expert, on this first show post-drought.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Which is more important than 2018, really.
Yes.
We'll talk about the Bills. Mike Catalana, Pat Duffy, what are you wearing?
This is the Team USA junior hockey jersey they wore at New Airfield. It's the Bills jersey, and they beat Canada in the shootout the other night. Oh, what a game. I was there. It was awesome. I hate Canada so much.
Your most recent purchase.
Yes, yeah, and don't tell my wife. I think she thinks I got it for free, so let's everyone be cool, okay?
Dan, pushing the Bills aside to the second segment, we're certainly going to get to them. Let's talk a little college football. We've got an all-SEC championship game, the last game of the college football season. How did you see it progressing to the point where we wound up?
Well, I think they got the top four teams in the college football playoff. You can always make an argument for the fifth team. This year it was Ohio State, last year Penn State, Iowa before that.
UCF.
We'll touch on that too. But I think they got the best four teams in the country, and I think however it would have played out, if we had Oklahoma, playing. Clemson. That would have been a great game too. I think you can only have two winners, but the fact that it's an all SEC to me is not a huge deal. I think it is the two teams that deserve to be playing each other, and the team that wins is rightfully going to be called the national champion.
Yeah, really all SEC'd out almost though.
Yeah,
there's some of that.
Well, I would have liked to have seen Oklahoma against Alabama just because it would have been Mayfield. It would have been a non-SEC team, and certainly they were close until they started play calling at the end of the game.
What do they think, right?
I understand that. You got the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
Yeah.
Your ultimate weapon is him slinging the ball, and they get to the overtime.
Yeah.
And Coach Riley just was completely conservative.
Yeah.
Completely said almost playing to not lose, playing for a field goal, which I didn't understand that.
That inexperience? Just inexperience?
It is. And I kept waiting, going into this, into the playoffs, into the two semifinal games, I kept thinking that the inexperience of being in this situation, he's not only the youngest college he's younger than any coach anywhere at that level. And his inexperience showed up. I think he just got a little too conservative and a little too, all of a sudden, playing not to lose. Because you watch that first half, and really in the second half, let Mayfield do his thing, and he stopped it.
And if it doesn't work, and you're Riley, and you go, I put the ball in the hands of my Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and he did everything, and it didn't work. I mean, even that 4th and 1, you're down by 3. I'm going for it there. I'm not kicking a field goal. You have the advantage, and if you are Georgia, you're thinking, thankfully, they're kicking the field goal here.
And it was not 4th and 1. It was 4th and that.
Yeah.
And you got to go. I mean, there's no reason, like you said, Mike, you're going to go down. If you're going to go down with your best player doing what he does best.
Do we have any emotional investment left in this game after what happened with the Bills?
Listen, even if the Bills had lost on Sunday, I'm bored with this matchup, right? The two more exciting teams were Oklahoma and Clemson, Alabama and Georgia. I don't really know anything about Georgia. I know the running backs are great. I despise Nick Saban as a human being. The only reason I would tune in is to see him lose, but I know he's probably not going to. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't care. I hate the fact that it's double SEC. You've got a team that didn't even win the division of their conference, is playing for a national championship. And then you brought up UCF earlier. This might be the year again that they have to stand back and look at everything, because you have Ohio State that has a legitimate complaint. You have UCF that goes undefeated. And then you have a team that couldn't win their division playing for a national championship.
UCF, I think it's a great story. And if I'm UCF, you're going to hang that banner that says perfect season, undefeated. Give those players rings that say the same thing. And hey, I miss the days when there used to be 7 or 8 different outlets that named people national champions. How about why can't they be the Orlando Sentinel national champions? I mean,
why do they need that? I think for you, you have to know who you are.
Right.
You have to know who you are.
And they know they've watched Boise State go undefeated. They've watched Utah go undefeated just in the last decade. And they don't get a sniff of the BCS championship game, or what we have now, the college football playoff. They know that in August, before they play their first game, we could go undefeated and not get invited to the dance. In the final rankings, they were 12th.
Yeah.
They weren't close. If we had an 8-team playoff, they still obviously weren't close. So they know the deal. What they can do is try a little harder to schedule out of conference games against some of the big boys, and you're not going to get a home and home. And hey, they got to play in a major bowl game, and they beat a good team, who, by the way, beat two of the teams in the playoff.
Yeah.
But listen, this was a great year for UCF, and they have a lot to celebrate.
Yes or no? Did you put them in? Would you put them in?
I mean, I think you have
Final
to.
Four?
Yeah, they're undefeated. Why not? I mean, what do you like? I love how people take this thing so seriously. Why not?
Yeah. Here's
Why not?
Here's
Yeah, but that's the problem.
It is. It's money.
Unpaid
for the
kids,
conferences.
and they're getting screwed by money that they're not making.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. We talk playoff-bound Bills next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. This portion brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Playoffs, Mike.
Yeah.
The most interesting stat, we got this from John DiTullio, or at least I heard it. I suppose
Yeah.
it's like not. 165-1 in the playoffs to win the Super Bowl, the Bills are. Longer in the playoffs than they were at the beginning of the season when they were 101.
Yeah, because you don't know what your circumstances are going to be at the beginning. We know where they are now, right? They're in a spot where, let's just say, for argument's sake, the three best teams in the playoffs are the Steelers in the AFC, the Patriots, and the Jaguars, if that's the way you do it. So they'd have to win on the road against all three of those teams in all likelihood to go to the Super Bowl, if that's where we're going. I think it is phenomenal for many reasons. One, because that drought, the whole years of all that with the drought, can just be put where it belongs, which is the most uninteresting part of Buffalo Bills history in the entire history of the franchise. It was 17 years of mediocrity, bad football, talking about guys like Trent Edwards, okay? It's bad football. The most interesting part of the drought was the way it started and the way it ended, and I'm happy that that portion of football is over and fans get to experience a playoff game.
You are so invested in this team. Like, how do you feel this week?
So we were out at the bar watching the game, and it was funny. So 13 WHAM showed up at the bar to tape the reactions of people. And one of the guys who I know had written me like, hey, is where you're at good? And that's when the Bills were up big and the Bengals were up 2 touchdowns. And as soon as the camera from 13 showed up that I said you should come here, both games started to turn. And I thought, oh my God, I did it. I jinxed this team, and I'm going to be the reason why the Bills don't do this thing. But like as soon as that Andy Dalton play happened, the place, of course, goes crazy. Every grown man in that bar is crying their eyes out. Me, or I may have been included in that. Like
Maybe.
It was the most phenomenal thing I had ever seen. I still don't think it's fully hit me that it's over, because I am so used to something terrible happening. Like when it was done, I didn't know how to feel, because everything that had always happened to us happened to someone else.
Okay, so the end of the Dolphins game, when the Bills give up the onside kick, imagine the Bills somehow lost that game and the Andy Dalton play still would have happened. That would have been the worst moment in ever, to lose a game that way. But they didn't. Yeah. They held on and they won, and they got the immense break with the Bengals.
I want to ask you, as we try to look forward, how important is it to the Buffalo Bills to put this thing, in terms of preparing for the rest or whatever happens, to put this whole drought thing behind them?
I think from a sports psychology standpoint, the way it happened and the celebration, the weight lifted off their back, beware of a team that is playing with house money, because that's what they have right now, and that's what the Bills are. And looking ahead to this game and this matchup, I don't know, Blake Bortles is not exactly Joe Montana. I mean, this is a winnable game. I know we talked earlier about the point spread or whatever, but I mean, this is a game they can get, and I think they now have a better attitude and a better, no matter what the deal is with McCoy, they're going out. They're going to play. I believe they're going to play a great game. I don't want to say a carefree game, because that would lead it to be kind of a sloppy game. They won't do that. I think they're going to play a great game, and they're going to have a chance to win this game. I think psychologically they're in a great place because of how they got
I
here.
like the term, the house money. Now look, in our Pick the Games contest this year, you guys are tied for the lead.
Yeah.
So this is your postseason too.
Yes.
You got 2 games to pick. Jacksonville's an 8-point favorite, and New Orleans was 6.5, I think, over Carolina.
Yeah.
So you two guys go at it.
All right. I'm going to go first up with the Bills game. I think they have an excellent chance to win the game. I think it's going to be close. There's no way Jacksonville should be that big of a favorite over anybody because I don't think their offense is good enough to do it. They can dominate teams with defense, but I just have a feeling, to what Dan's talking about, I think the Bills are, if they play really well, they're going to win the game. Because if they play really well, they'll beat Jacksonville. I think they'll play well. I think it'll be close. I got the Bills covering and losing in a tight game.
The other game?
We're talking about the Carolina,
Yeah.
New Orleans game.
6.5 New Orleans.
Yeah. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the points and have the underdog with a shot to win.
You get the
game.
last word.
Okay, so Bills, Jaguars, right? Everyone's talking about how great this Jaguars defense is. Yeah, they play in the AFC South. Marone ran away from the AFC East to get away from the Patriots. And you lost to the Titans twice. The Jags are not as good as they are. Marone is no good under pressure. We saw it when he was here in Buffalo. The Bills win this game. We're going to Foxborough next week. And I am so glad you took the points in Atlanta because there's no way that Cam Newton, after everything he's been through the last couple seasons, is losing this game. They're going to cover. They win. I'll see you next season.
Wait a minute. I'm taking the points.
Oh, wait, no. Yeah, that's what I said, right?
No, so you guys have the same team, so this is going to carry on to next week.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. I'll take the other one.
No,
Whatever
no,
you
no,
said,
no.
I'll take the opposite.
Go
No,
with
no,
me.
I'm going all in against Mike Catalana.
So you're taking
Sunday,
New Orleans.
Sunday.
Hold on. You're taking New Orleans to cover.
Yes, excuse me.
All right.
No, see, you're already screwing it up. Whatever he said, I'll
right.
take
You're
the
taking
opposite.
New Orleans to cover, and I'm taking Carolina with the points.
Whatever it is, I'm the champion. Go ahead.
Hey, let me tell you something. I mean, I would love to be going to Foxborough the next week. That is real house money if they get that opportunity. So that'd be fun.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse, and this portion brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Michael, like it or not, Baker Mayfield.
Look, I voted for the guy for the Heisman because I thought he was the best player. I like him as a player. I like him as an NFL player in the right circumstances. He's got to really mesh with a coach. It would be interesting with the Bills. I think Sean McDermott would either love him or despise him, one way or the other. And I think that's where Combine and all that time, getting a chance to talk to players, is a big deal. I think in the right spot, I like a lot about what the guy does. The cockiness, whatever. We might have had a quarterback here who had that kind of cockiness when he was in college, too. Maybe number 12, maybe when he came out. It's a different world now. I'm not saying he's Jim Kelly. I'm saying is that kind of cockiness can translate to being a good
We
player.
hear two guys compared for them as night and day difference. Drew Brees on one side because he's small, and Johnny Manziel on the other.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's somewhere in between, right?
Well, no, I mean, I think this kid has no shot. I think he flames out.
No
Listen,
shot.
I want him to succeed, but how many of these guys have we seen, swagger, brashness, even if it's not a quarterback, come out of college football and just completely fall in their face? Everyone will be cheering against him who isn't a member of the fan base that he shows up in. I don't think the kid has a shot. I like him, too. I don't think he has a shot.
Like it or not, Jon Gruden getting back into the coaching business.
I like that he's getting back into the coaching business because I think it's good for all of us that like to watch the NFL on TV. So that alone will be entertaining. I don't think I'll miss him too much from watching Monday Night Football, but I certainly am looking forward to watching him on the sidelines again. I do have to point out the fact that it seems, though, that his best coaching and his stock has risen more since he's stopped coaching than anything he did while he was coaching. I mean,
Yeah. This is the year for broadcasters getting back into coaching.
Yeah, that's a great
Aaron
point.
Boone.
That's right, Herm Edwards. But I think with Gruden, because he won that Super Bowl, and because his personality and he attracts eyeballs. So people like to watch whatever he's saying and doing. So I think back on the sidelines in the NFL and with the Raiders, I think it's a good fit. Certainly as they transition to move to Las Vegas, it kind of bridges this last year. I think they'll be in Oakland this coming year, maybe one more, and then to Vegas. So I think from the Oakland Raider family and for Jon Gruden wanting to finally get back on the sidelines, I think it makes sense. How it's going to play out, who knows, but I'm excited to watch it.
Cool. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business is next.
Yourself a little extra drive time on your commute.
Dunkin' on-the-go mobile ordering. Order ahead, skip the wait, and get back to doing.
Right on time. Let's get to work.
Download the Dunkin' app today. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
1999, I was 13 years old, and I watched the Music City Miracle happen in my parents' living room. And I walked out of that house, and I sat in my front lawn, and I just stared off in the distance for like half an hour. Now, fast forward 17 years, I'm at the bar, and I watch everything that happened with Andy Dalton happen. I left my house as a 13-year-old kid the last time the Bills were in the playoffs. I walked into my home as a 31-year-old man with 2 children, a wife, and a mortgage the next time the Bills made the playoffs. Like, think about how insane that is and where you were in your life versus where you are now. And Mike was right. Like, the drought years, as goofy as it wasn't any kind of good football for the Bills, but we did get something out of it. This fan base. Because there are lots of fan bases across the country, right? You know a couple of Steelers fans at work, or a couple of Packers fans, or a handful of Patriots fans, and it's easy for them to be fans. You know what we got out of this drought? The most die-hard, tried-and-true fan base that's ever existed, possibly with the exception of the Cubs and the Red Sox before 2004, in sports. There is nobody that is cheering for the Bills on Sunday, legitimately cheering, that doesn't love this team more than life itself, because the only way you can still be here is if you sat through the 17 years of awfulness that we did. 13 years old to 31. And now that it's done, you know what? I don't really hate those 17 years that we had to sit and wait for it.
Now that it's done. You know, it's funny, as we record the show, it's the anniversary of the great comeback against the Houston Oilers. And what I always remember about that is you talk about taking success for granted. Maybe it happens someday. That game did not sell out in Buffalo.
Yeah,
Playoff game.
because the Bills ended up having to play the wild card when Jim Kelly got hurt in the game in Houston. Nobody expected him to play that week, and they ended up with the blacked out game at home.
Dan, what do you got?
Well, speaking of watching football many years ago and fond memories, I grew up in the era when college football national champions were decided on New Year's Day. There was 4 or 5 bowl games at the most. You had the Cotton, the Fiesta, the Sugar, the Rose, and the Orange, and you waited till usually it was the Orange Bowl or the Sugar Bowl that ended around midnight, and you kind of knew going in based on the final AP poll and coaches poll who'd be voted number 1. I loved that. We got away from that, went to the BCS era where we said, now let's let the computers figure it out. You know what? The BCS got it right. The BCS got it right consistently. Then we said, no, we can't let the computers do it. Let's form a committee of former coaches and athletic directors and people that really know the game. Let's let them get into a room together 5 or 6 times beginning around the middle of October and let them decide who the 4 teams are. 4 teams are that will play for the national championship. You know what? I think it's perfect right now. With 4 teams. We don't need 6. We don't need 8. The 4 teams that are playing this year we've got 2 teams left, and Georgia and Alabama will go at it this week for the national championship. Those are the 2 teams that should be playing for it, and whoever wins that game is a worthy national champion. But let's keep it at 4.
That's good, Chad. I thought you were going to go I wish for the good old days on
No.
Sear.
I think we kept getting it right, and now it's perfect.
All right, let's go back to the drought real quick, and here's what I'm happy about. And Bill alluded to it before. For Sean McDermott and the drought, it's over. What does it mean going forward? It means he can stick to his plan. He did have a plan, Pat. He did have a plan and the process, and this stepped it up a bit. And the reason I say that, we talked about Baker Mayfield, some other young quarterback. They might go down that road, at least for Sean McDermott, as he tries to rework what is still a flawed roster. He can go ahead with his plan and not have that hanging over his head. And it would be hanging over his head. It'd be year 18 and 19 and whatever. And they may take a step back next year as they reevaluate this roster. But at least they had made it to the playoffs, and that is off the table. Build a roster that someday, when number 12 is done in Foxborough, the Bills can be the team that dominates the division and starts to win. It may not be right now, but at least that and making the playoffs is off the table. And everything's positive in that way going forward.
And to clarify, you were picking a win outright this week?
No, I'm not going to pick a win. I want to see it so badly because I really want to see them get that opportunity in Foxborough. Yeah. And I could change my mind by the time I'm down there in Jacksonville. I think the Bills hang in a close game. And but I'll stick with the Jags winning a close game. But if they play well, the Bills have a very, very good shot to win the game.
Then Pat's picking them.
Well, this is great, though, because every time you pick the Bills to win, they lose. So we're going to Foxborough.
I picked them to win this past week.
This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brewhouse Unfinished Business. It's brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Thank you, Dan. Good job. Good
Always
to
a
have you
pleasure.
back,
Thanks.
guys,
Thank
as
you.
always. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.